Judges Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best online retailer for Magic the Gathering singles and sealed product, and gatheringmagic.com, your place to explore the game. Now it's time for Judges Corner.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another installment of Judges Corner Viewer Questions, where I take a look at some of the questions you asked me and answer them in a video. So let's go ahead and begin by taking a look at one of the most interesting questions I've been asked in a while. Andrew asked, if a permanent gains a Planeswalker's abilities, such as through putting a +1/+1 counter on an animated Gideon or Sarkhan, with Courage for instance, can that permanent use the Walker's loyalty abilities? Before I dive into this one, the short answer is yes. There are some rules and stipulations that do apply though. For starters, you can only use your Courage's newfound loyalty abilities once per turn, when the stack is empty during your main phase, just like a normal Planeswalker. You also cannot use one of Courage's loyalty abilities more than once a turn, even if it's for 2 loyalty abilities from separate Planeswalkers. If one of the Planeswalkers stops being a creature, it'll keep the +1/+1 counters with no effect, and Courage will lose their loyalty abilities for the time being, until they awaken as creatures once more. You cannot use negative loyalty abilities if you don't have the loyalty counters to pay for them. And finally, damaging a creature that is not also a Planeswalker will not result in the loyalty counters being removed. Alright, so since we're going back in time with Fate Reforged, I figured it'd be very entertaining to go back and look at the past that Courage has had. As it turns out, when it was first released, Planeswalkers didn't exist. And then when Planeswalkers came out a little while after that, the rules for them weren't completely ironed out. In fact, you could actually go infinite, because the rules surrounding Planeswalkers only pertain to just Planeswalkers in regards to loyalty abilities. And permanents that weren't Planeswalkers that somehow were endowed with the magical powers of Planeswalkers could pretty much use them as much as they wanted. There was no restriction. So Wizards eventually found this little loophole that players had discovered, and they closed it off pretty quick. So thanks, Wizards. Candlehawk asked, recently, Wizards Event Reporter crashed across the whole world, and the software used in its place didn't allow for draws at my local shop. What would happen if my opponent and I were both 1-1, and the 5 additional turns had expired, and we both were at 4 life when we both died simultaneously from my Stormbreath Dragon being deflecting palmed back at me, while my Boon Satyr attacked through? Well, then the game ends in a draw, and you both start a brand new game, with the same state-based action for that particular sequence that says whoever has the lowest life loses the game. So, that basically means the first person to lose life loses the game, or the first person to gain life wins the game. Justin asked, if I have multiple Prophets of Kruphix and my opponent's upkeep happens, may I instantly untap, use the mana, untap, use the mana, and then let my opponent continue? Unfortunately, no. There are 2 reasons for that. First, no one has priority during the untap step, and even though it doesn't use a stack, you would need priority just to tap your lands for mana. Second, the Prophet's ability is a static one that just occurs during the untap, and not a triggered ability that could be responded to. The last viewer asked, why does All Is Dust not make players sacrifice their lands? Aren't lands colored permanents? Nope, lands are colorless, unless otherwise stated. Dryad Arbor is currently the only colored land, and cards like Treetop Village become colored when animated for the turn. Color is derived by the mana cost of the card, the color indicator next to the card type, like with Garruk the Veiled Cursed, or by any characteristic defining abilities written on the card. With the introduction of the color indicator, the only card with a color characteristic defining ability is Ghostfire. So, that's it for our episode. If you have any questions about this episode or any other questions in general, you can always send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com, or you can leave a comment below, and myself or somebody else will be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you like this video, you can give it a like. It'll really help us out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content from Gathering Magic. Until next time, make sure to shuffle thoroughly, play at a reasonable pace, and have fun.